Hello, welcome back. So this is the first session of our hand-tied bouquet beginners course. And so today we're going to be looking at the process of spiraling the stems on your bouquet. And hopefully at the end of this you'll be left with a lovely gift bouquet which you can keep or just give away. So first I'm going to show you what you need. So I've got the bucket of flowers that we prepared in the introduction. Okay, so I've got my peonies, roses, more roses, stocks, chrysanthemums, eryngium or sea holly, and my foliage. Okay, and that's all still in the bucket from the preparation we did with the conditioning. Also, you're going to need your scissors. Take your pick, whichever ones that you prefer to use, and you will also need some string. About a metre of string should be enough. Okay, and then if you want to have a decorative finish to your bouquet, you'll also need either some ribbon or some raffia, and I'm just going to use some raffia today, which looks like this. All right, so I'll show you that when we get to the end of making the bouquet. So the first thing you need to do is get your materials ready to go into the bouquet. So remember, we took the leaves off the bottom of the stems, gave them a nice drink, so hopefully they'll be all ready to go. So now what you need to do is get everything out of the bucket, or in terms of your foliages. Now what I like to do is to divide everything into separate groups according to type. So got this type of foliage first, then I've got my long ivy. And this really helps you to see what you've got, helps you to choose what you want to put into your bouquet. Then I've got the Portuguese laurel and the buried ivy. And then I've got my flowers. I'm going to leave my flowers in the bucket because I don't want them to get damaged by laying them out on the table. Now it's really important to have some foliage because it helps to separate your flowers and give your bouquet a greenness and a fullness. Okay, if you just have all the flowers together, then they just all crowd into each other. There's no separation. You can't see the individual flowers, which is a bit of a shame really. It just looks like a little bit of a mess. Whereas the green really helps to give some separation and give some body to your bouquet. So first of all, I need to make sure all my materials are ready to go into this bouquet. Now, initially we took the leaves off of the bottoms of the foliages and flowers, but we didn't take quite enough off. And what you need to do now is remove anything that's going to get in the way of your hand. So when this bouquet is sitting in your hand like this, there needs to be no foliage from that point downwards. This is actually going to be called the tying point, and that's where we tie it up at the end. Okay, so no foliage below that tying point. So this is a good opportunity to go back through your foliages and check that there's no leaves sort of too low down. And it's also a good idea at this point to check to see if anything's looking a bit tatty or if it's been eaten by something. Sometimes you get little holes in the foliages, and it's a good idea to cut all the horrible bits off like this. Again, taking these lower ones off. Now it may well be that you've got a couple of branches that come out like that. They are going to get in the way of your hand, and it's easier to just take those off as well. What you really want is some foliage about sort of 15 centimetres, maybe 20 centimetres from the top down, maybe not even 20, that's more like 15, isn't it? Yeah. No foliage down here at all. Okay, so I'm going to sort through all of that and get everything ready to go in, and you can just watch me do that quickly. Taking all the tatty bits off. Again, if you've got something like that, I would take the lower one off. It is possible to use those two pieces as one piece of foliage, but you'll have to remember to pinch them together when you put them into your bouquet. These lower ones off. So that's my Portuguese laurel. Got quite a short one there. That's okay. If you've got like 3 like that and they're quite close to the top, then just leave them on. That's quite a short piece overall anyway. It might be, it's better to use that round the outside somewhere. So just cutting all the scruffy ones off. So we've got just the tips there. Now I've come to the ivy. These are my short bits. If you remember, I had some little shorter bits. I'm actually now going to take all these lower bits off so that I've really got about 15, no more than 15 centimeters at the top of my stems. These are my short stems, very short. Okay, I'm going to leave that one on. Again, we can pretend that's one piece, but I'm going to take these lower leaves off because they're going to get in the way if I use that. These pieces are slightly longer, but you'd be surprised how high you need to go. Just be a bit brutal in taking those leaves off. They're just going to get in your way when you come to make up the bouquet. If in doubt, take it off. It's nearly always, you hope to leave it on and then you end up having to pull it off while you're trying to make up the bouquet. So you've got some nice clean stems there. That will work. Okay, I'll take these little bits off here. Nice clean stems again. So I'm lining up my ivy there. Oh, I've got a bit more laurel there, so I'll pop that on the end. This is the foliage that came with the, if you remember, it came with the already mixed bunch. This is still too low and you really do only need that little bit on the top there. So all that's going to come off. This, I'm loath to pull all these bits off because there is a good amount of spare stems there. But if you see, they are quite bare, so I'm gonna take a chance on that one and leave those on. So try and keep your work area nice and clean so you can see what you've got and where it all is. So lastly, there's a little bit of Portuguese laurel on the end, is that long ivy. Oh, there's a bit more of that as well. Oh, I've just broken that, so that's a decision made for me. This can be a bit difficult to use in bouquets because it's not very full, but it always gives quite a nice finish, sort of sticking out slightly. It gives a little bit of texture and a little bit of height sometimes. So it's always worth including a bit, especially if you're very short on foliage. Okay, this could be difficult. I'm going to take a chance and use this as one piece. So when I put that in, I'm going to pull those two together as though it's one piece of foliage. Oh, this is way too much. And that's broken, so we won't use that. Okay, oh, there's a crazy piece. So we're going to take all of these side bits off because they're going to get in the way. Okay, right, and have a little clear up again. So back to the flowers now. I need to make sure they're ready to go in the bouquet as well. So I'm going to choose one type at a time. Now again, we don't want any leaves below our hand once they go in the bouquet. Now you can see if I put that in, those leaves are going to be in the way, so I need to take those off. Any broken leaves that don't look very nice, bit brown, bit tatty, just take them off. The eryngium, I'm just going to pull this out of here. That would just get used as one stem. I'm just going have a quick look at the stalks. Again, some of the leaves on here are quite low, so we need to take those off. We just really need the flower and a few little bits of leaf around it on a stalk. Okay, so we'll just pop those back in as we do them. Okay, and you can see when that's in my hand, that will be perfect. So the leaves and roses are never very nice anyway, so don't feel any guilt about having to pull those off. The leaves on peonies are a bit tougher, so we'll take, again, if they're a bit too low, you can pull them off or you can just cut them off. And lastly, the pink roses. Now I'm not going to use all of these in this bouquet. I'm probably just going to use 5 in here. And that's loads, that's more than enough. Put these to one side. Okay, so I'm just going to check these. Make sure they're not too high. Okay, so everything's ready, and then we're going to start to construct our hand-tied bouquet. So I've checked all the rest of my flowers. We've taken all the leaves off there. Rose leaves are never worth keeping. Just the top few, they go soft quite quickly. And I've just checked through everything else, and it's all ready to go in with no foliage below my hand. Okay, so you're going to choose your first stem. It can be a flower or it can be foliage, it doesn't make any difference, but a nice straight stem is usually quite a good idea because you can keep an eye on it. Now you need to hold this in your primary hand, so if you're right-handed, hold it in your right hand. Obviously if you're left-handed, hold it in that hand. And this is because once you start getting a lot of materials in there, it gets very heavy, so you need your strongest hand to be able to hold onto that bouquet. Okay, so the first piece is my rose, and that's going to be nice and straight up. My second piece I'm going to put in this, I'm going to put a piece of foliage in. It doesn't matter what you put in next, but it's always quite nice to have some foliage around your centre. Now I'm calling it the centre, but sometimes it kind of drifts off to one side. Again, it doesn't matter. You'll see at the end that sometimes it doesn't build in an exact circle around the centre. So my first piece of foliage, I'm going to put in at 45 degrees. Okay, to my main stem. I'm going to put another flower in. One of my chrysanthemums, again at 45 degrees to my main stem. Okay, now the tops of your foliage and your flowers have all got to be on this, put in the same way, so I try and remember sort of flowers to the right or heads to the right when I'm putting it in. Now this is your bouquet, you're working at the front all the time, you always work at the front, you never try and put stuff in at the back, and I'll show you how to turn it in a minute. So we've got some foliage, we've got some flowers, we'll put a bit more foliage in there. Put some ivy, again 45 degrees. So put it in where you want it and then just pull the stem back at 45 degrees, okay? If it starts to close up, don't worry too much. Just keep it fairly straight in the middle. Get a couple more things in. I think we'll put a peony in there. Again, put the head where you want it and then bring the stem back at 45 degrees. Keep having a check, see what it looks like from the top. Piece of foliage, again back at 45 degrees. Okay, just keep putting stuff in. I'm going to put the blue in, I'm going to put that on at the front of everything else, and I've only got one of those, so I'm going to kind of try and centre that a little bit. Okay, you can see it's all still going in at 45 degrees to that main stem. I need to pull that up a little bit. Okay, I was holding it with my fingers. I'm now going to sort of grasp it with all of my fingers because it's starting to get heavy and it's starting to need a bit more support. So I'm going to put a piece of ivy in, just there. Okay, so now you can see there's an awful lot going on here in comparison to my straight stem there. Okay, but it is going to actually start to close up. Now, what I want to do is turn it because I want to sort of put some more stuff around here. So what I need to do is hold it in my other hand, turn that hand, and then put it back in that hand. So now all the stuff that I put in previously is at the back, okay, and my straight stem is there. But you don't suddenly turn around and start working that way. You still put everything in that direction. So head to the right, okay, and we start working at 45 degrees to that straight one in this direction. All right, so let's put a white rose in there. So I'm going to put the head of my flower where I want it and then just bring the stem back at 45 degrees. Okay, I think we'll have another one of these in there. Actually no, we've got some stocks here and these give a lovely bit of definition because they're pointed. It's a different texture to a lot of the other flowers and it gives a nice bit of definition. So what I'm going to do is pop the head where I want it and bring that stem back at 45 degrees. Now what's happened is you see the stems have started to spiral. Okay, and although I started with that one in the center, it's a little bit off to one side now, but that doesn't matter. Just keep checking the top, and now I'm going to start working over here. Now I need to get that part of my bouquet to the front. Okay, so in that hand, turn it round, bring it to the front. Okay, I think we need a bit of white round here. So let's put another stock in there. So put the head of the flower where you want it and then just bring the stem back at 45 degrees. All the stems have to go in the same direction. Okay, if you suddenly put something in wrong, it's going to look like that. If you've crossed your stems, then you're not going to get that nice spiral and your flowers won't spread in a nice spiral. They'll start fighting against each other. Whereas if you put it in a spiral, so the head where I want it, bring it back, all the stems sort of automatically all lock together in a really nice spiral. Okay, so it's looking rather lovely. So let's get a bit of foliage in the front here. A little bit of the ivy, I think. And you can see how the foliage is really important. It gives some nice separation and it supports the flowers as well. So I'm going to turn it round and I'm going to get a stock in just there. It's always better to work in odd numbers if you can. It keeps your eye moving around your bouquet. Once you get past sort of 7, it doesn't matter if you're in odd or even numbers, but especially if you've got just 3 of something, it's really better to have 3 than 2. So I'm going to get some more peonies in there. So I'm going to put that at the front there and fold it back at 45 degrees. Okay. Let's have a look. I think we need a bit more pink over here. So we'll put another rose in just there. And bring that back at 45 degrees. Now a bit more of this. I want to put one of these over here. So I'm going to turn my bouquet so that part of the bouquet is in front of me. Okay, and I'm just going to put this in just there. So put the head where I want it, bring the stem back at 45 degrees. Okay, don't worry too much about the heights at this stage. You can change that at the end. So a bit more Portuguese laurel in there. Again, stem back at 45 degrees. And I think another peony would be quite nice here. So put the head in there and bring back at 45 degrees. Okay, it's as simple as that, she says. Okay, so I think I'd quite like, see, I started off with one of these in the middle. I think it was that one, wasn't it? So I could actually just build some more around here. But if you find that the centre of your bouquet has moved and now it looks completely different, you can actually thread a flower into there. So I'd quite like a pink, one of those bright pink roses in the middle. So I'm going to use this one. If you put the bouquet on its side, okay, like that, find where you want it to go. Okay, and then just very gently bring the stem through like that. Okay, and then make sure you bring that back at 45 degrees to all the others so it slots nicely into your spiral there. Okay, you can actually put a flower into the middle of your bouquet like that. Okay, right, so I'm looking now at this white rose and I'm thinking I need one over here, so I turn my bouquet around so that's at the front. I think a bit of foliage because I've got some flowers there and I need a bit of foliage to separate them, so a bit of foliage there and another white rose just there. Okay, and then I think I'd quite like that's sort of ended up to one side, but that doesn't matter. Okay, so I've got my stocks. I'm going to pull those up a little bit just so I can keep an eye on where they are. These are quite big. I need to put my last one in, I think, and choose where that's going to go. And I think over here, look. So put the head where I want it and then bring that stem back at 45 degrees. Okay, now it's really beginning to look like a bouquet now. Sometimes it's quite handy to be able to stand in front of a mirror and look and see where everything is, but most of us don't have a mirror handy. So my last white rose, I've got one there, one there. I'm going to put my last one in over here and a bit more foliage. Okay, all the time choosing where I want the head, bring back the stem. I'm going to put another stock in there. So the head's going to go there, bring the stem back there. Okay, and I think where I put that pink rose, I'm going to put another stock in there with it. So same again, poke it in, look for the stem and pull it down. And then just slot it into the rest of the stems there. And look, you can see it's a really nice spiral there. So I'm going to put my last pink rose in. I've got to decide where I think I'm going to put it over that side. So I need to turn this. So this part of the bouquet is in front of me. So in that hand, if you've got leaves that are getting in your way, just pick them off. In my hand, turn it around. And I think actually there would be a better place. So I'll pull it out and turn it back round. Yeah, so put the head where I want it, bring the stem back at 45 degrees. All my stems are going in the same direction. I've got a couple more quite tight peonies here. I'm going to pop one in between those two roses there. Bring the stem back at 45 degrees. And I'm going to put one in round here. Okay, so just there, or just the other side of the blue. I really like the pink against the blue there. So I just need to turn that round a little bit. Put the pink peony in there, stem back at 45 degrees. Okay, and then I'm just going to pop a little bit of foliage around the outside. And this is where your short bits of foliage come in quite handy. I mean, if you haven't got enough to go all the way around the outside, don't worry too much. But sometimes it's quite nice to have a bit of foliage around the edge. Okay, so I'm just checking the outside of my bouquet, make sure I haven't got too many gaps. That's fine. And now I need to just check the height of things. Okay, now at first glance that piece of ivy there is way too high, so what I need to do is find the stem of that. So if I pull it up, hopefully I'll see something moving underneath. There it is. And I can pull that down and tuck it into the flowers. Okay, you don't want it to dominate your bouquet. And then you can adjust the heights. Now what I suggest you do is just make it a little bit taller in the middle. Okay, these, be careful, they're quite tender. Let's pull those up a bit so they're a bit higher. Gives a little bit of interest. It's a different texture, which is nice. Actually, I can probably pop one there. I've got one left. I'm just going to pop it in. There we are. So don't grab your flowers by the top. Just hook your fingers underneath. There we are. And then bring some of them up a bit, especially your roses. You really want to see those. Okay, and the lovely peonies sitting there. So just turn it round a little bit. Okay. Just again pull this up because it's sort of central. Okay, you want to just see if you've got anything hiding in there, just pull it up a little bit. That's it. There we are. And then you can afford to have some of your outside flowers slightly shorter. Okay, so you can pull them down a bit. If you think you've got a bit too much foliage, you can take that off as well. Okay. I think all in all that's pretty nice bouquet. Okay, I'd be thrilled to bits to receive that as a present. So I'm going to get my piece of string now to tie off. So fold it in half-ish. Hasn't got to be exact. Okay, so I've got a loop one end and 2 free ends the other. So I'm going to put that loop around my thumb like that. And then those 2 ends I'm going to take round over my hand. Okay, around the stems to this side, and then I'm going to put those 2 ends through that loop, all right, like that, and pull very gently like that, just twisting it backwards and forwards until it's fairly tight. Now I can put that down and nothing's going to move. Okay, so let me move this out of the way. Now normally I would put this on the table like this, but I'm going to turn it around so that you can see what I'm doing. So there's my string and my 2 ends. And see, nothing's moved, so I've got it on fairly tight already. Separate the 2 pieces and give it a little tug. Make sure it's nice and firm, right? Not so hard you break the string, but it needs to be firm. And then you need to take both pieces round the back, cross them over, bring them back on top. Now I'm already seeing there's a leaf there and that's not good, so I'm taking that out. So I've now got my 2 bits of string here, and I'm just going to do a quick double knot in there. Again, making sure it's nice and tight, nice and firm. If this is too loose, your bouquet will just do that, and then it will just all sort of collapse. So trim that off there like that, and that's your bouquet nice and firmly tied. If this is too loose, this is just all going to come apart. It needs to be fairly firm. If it is too loose, take it apart, do it again. Okay, don't try and put more string on it, you end up with loads of string. So the last thing you need to do with your bouquet is to trim it, because look, all the stems are different lengths. Okay, needs to be about 20 centimeters at least of stem. Okay, maybe 25 depending. I usually make mine about 20. The first thing you need to do is cut them all near enough the same length. Decide where 20 centimeters comes and cut them all the same length. Now already some are a bit shorter. It doesn't matter, don't worry about that. It's just that if you've got some long ones, you want them all the same length. If you're having trouble seeing if they're the same length, just get hold of them like that. Pull them together. And you'll see that they're all the same length. If you're going to put this in a gift bag, or you want it to stand up, then you just need to take the longer stems out of the middle. So you've got longer ones around the outside, shorter ones in the middle. And then once you've done that, you just need to snip everything back at 45 degrees on the end. Okay, so it can all have a nice drink. Some things will already be at 45 degrees because if you haven't had to trim them, if they were short anyway, then they'll already be at 45. But anything that isn't, just take it back to 45 degrees. Especially the roses, peonies, things that need a good drink. Okay, then hopefully, if all is right, you stand it up, your bouquet will stand up like that. Okay, so that's the finished bouquet. All right, make sure you keep it in water. Now that can go straight in a vase, or it can go as a gift, whatever you like. You can get bags. I mean, there's all sorts of gift wrapping and other things you can do to that, and honestly I could do a whole lesson on just gift wrapping, so I think we'd probably just leave it like that. I was going to show you the raffia, so if you wanted to put a bit of ribbon on this, just make it a bit prettier. This is raffia or a bit of ribbon, it doesn't matter, and you can just tie that round, cover the string up like that. Yeah, I'm just going to lay that down so I can see what I'm doing. Just makes it look a bit more like a present, I suppose. As I say, you could use string. Ribbon, sorry, not string, ribbon. You could use ribbon. Trim that. You can make a bow or you can just make a plain knot. It's entirely up to you. Okay. And that's it. That's a hand-tied bouquet. So if you need to look at this video once more, twice more, 10 times more, it doesn't matter. Just keep looking until you've got it right. Just keep practicing. It's like riding a bike, driving a car. The more you do it, the easier it gets, okay? So that's your hand-tied bouquet. You're going to need a couple of bits of specialist equipment. The first thing is going to be something called pot tape, which is like this. Okay. And the other thing you're going to need is some pearl-headed pins. These come in all sorts of different colours. Pearl heads, I've got green ones here. And you're also going to need a metre of ribbon. It can be a little bit narrower than that. I would normally use 25mm, which is 1 inch, double-faced satin ribbon. But this is what I've got at home, so this is what I'm going to be using. So I will post a list of materials that you need. They're suggested materials, flowers, foliage, etc. And also, I mean, if you just Google bride's bouquet, there's going to be a huge variety. Choose something you like and kind of aim towards that basic shape, okay? See if anything takes your eye. Thank you very much. See you next week.